All right, we're checking out a little bit of primitive human institutions in the Urantia book. This is good because it has these little pockets of insight that help us understand where we're at today in our backward and confused state. Remember, it doesn't need to be this way on the planet. Don't let anyone perpetuate this idea that we always need to have struggle. We're always going to need to have this and that. So why just throw up your hands? Why bother trying to work on it? The Urantia book reveals that there are planets settled in light and life. And when people gear themselves towards spirituality, you could put the whole picture together. And that whole picture involves things like capital, how do we spend our money, politics, so forth. The question of wealth came up recently in some video that I was watching, and somebody was going to say, well, wealth isn't money, it is goods and services. And what good are the goods and services if you don't have the peace of mind? This is what I'm adding to it, the peace of mind to share or enjoy those goods and services. If you have $1 billion and somebody's about to drop a bomb on you, or somebody's about to break in, murder you, and you have to be all anxious about trying to protect and covet this money, then why is that wealth? The only true measure of wealth is how close your society is, your planet is, towards light and life, towards being settled in that state of light and life. And you can read all about what that means, but it's basically a utopia. There's still problems that exist minor on minor levels, and for the most part, they have that. And that is wealth. Wealth is not goods and services. Wealth is not money. Wealth is not just if you had peace of mind, but you needed to be injected with heroin constantly in order to have that peace of mind, then you can't just say wealth is peace of mind. So you have to put the totality of the entire picture together to say it's gearing towards an ideal set out by the divine. That is wealth, because that is all encompassing. And that's how we need to look at truth as this living thing that encompasses, embraces all. Once you start to segment it and break it off into various things, you're going to miss out on the whole picture, and you're not going to be able to do this both individually and collectively. So let's take a quick look at this. Page 777. Though capital has tended to liberate man, it has greatly complicated his social and industrial organization. And we're seeing that to this day and age, how complicated all of these systems are. Remember, man complicates, God simplifies. But they're not pointing out and saying you should have never invested or invented wealth and capital. Okay? It has tended to liberate man, right? So this is an era that we need to gear beyond. This is a throwback to the past, this complicated era, right? We want to move beyond that now. Well, I mean, this is currently happening. We want to make it a throwback to the past. The abuse of capital by unfair capitalists does not destroy, okay, so they're saying that it does not destroy the fact that it is the basis of the modern industrial society. Okay, so they're nodding to both types of economic ideologies. One could even call it left and right. Okay, the left is very much involved with wanting to tax the billionaires and so forth, because they see that there's this unfair abuse of capital. And the right is saying, well, we need to have free market capitalism because we need to have this modern industrial society. Through capital and invention, the present generation enjoys a higher degree of freedom than any that had ever preceded it on earth. Okay, so freedom, if you use freedom wisely, then you are now going to move towards spirituality and divinity. And remember, that will encompass everything. You will have better family relationships. You'll be able to use your freedom for those things. You'll be able to enjoy nature more. You'll put the whole full picture in together. So you'll be able to use your freedom if you are wise in the proper way. This is placed on record as a fact and not in justification of the many misuses of capital by thoughtless and selfish custodians. that the right wing of the political spectrum wants to use that as the justification, folks. So this one line, it nods to both to say that is a fact. They're right. That's why each group has a half of the truth. And I'm kind of pigeonholing too. I mean, I know there's a lot of, various ideas and ideals within each group and sort of thing. But just for the basics kind of argument, all right, that the right is arguing that we need, or even a libertarian argument, that we need to have this unfettered free market capitalism. And if there's some sort of misuse of the capital by thoughtless and selfish custodians, well, that'll justify it. It's okay if that happens. But this is saying that doesn't justify it. Okay? So it's important to understand both. It's just like if somebody had an alcohol abuse problem, you would want to understand it on an emotional level and say, I understand why you have that. You were born into a world system of things that has been controlling you from birth to be anti-Christ, anti-God, generationally, even 500,000 years before this. And so I understand why you have this alcohol abuse problem, but I'm not approving of it on an intellectual level. And it's so hard for people to thread those two sort of understandings. So you have to get rid of the abuse, but still allow people to have private property. And this is saying private property has been very important in, in growth in human societies and in growth of those institutions and everything. They so much derives from the ability to have private property. So somebody will say, oh, well, geez, if you want to make it so that these people can't accumulate billions and billions of dollars, oh, then you're just a communist. See, they're going to swing way too far and just say, well, that's just a part of free market. There's going to be people that have these billions and billions. But that's not the case, because you don't need to swing so far as to then abolish private property. Private property can be important, but you can also say that people just simply, there needs to be checks on how much wealth and power that people can. And we're living it, folks. Here. This is another, let's look at this, okay? Let's look at this quickly. The right to property is not absolute. It is purely social. But all government, law, order, civil rights, social liberties, conventions, peace, and happiness, as they are enjoyed by modern peoples, have grown up around the private ownership of property. So they're saying how much of a nod that they're giving to the ownership of private property. So they're saying, don't go back to those times and eras where they thought that maybe that was the solution. We have to come up with new solutions that still allow for private property, but they don't allow for this unequal distribution of wealth, because when that happens, people are able to buy political influence. They're able to rig the system in their favor, and we're living it right now. So it's not just one or the other. That's an important thing to understand. The present social order is not necessarily right. It is not divine or sacred. But mankind will do well to move slowly in making changes. That which you have is vastly better than any system known to your ancestors. Make certain that when you change the social order, you change for the better. Do not be persuaded to experiment with the discarded formulas of your forefathers. So let's discard, folks, communism. Let's discard what we have. We call this unfettered free market capitalism, which is leading to the exact situation that we're in right now. It's just perpetuating it, okay? We need to discard that one as well. We need to discard both of them. Okay? That's going forward. If we were to say, no, we need to perpetuate free market capitalism, perpetuate, that's just the nature, is that you're going to have the selfish and greedy are going to control people that are just trying to live their lives, and they're going to use them for their own personal and selfish gain. In a world settled in light and life, they have various things, differences that they're able to do because there isn't that sort of thing. If you had a world set on light and life, they said that their laws are on, or this is a neighborhood or government or neighborhood planet that's more advanced than ours. They say that their laws are now in the positive era, which would mean the laws are more about rewarding somebody. If you thought about a child, you could have, or an animal that you were training, you could have positive encouragement, which would be give it a treat when it did something, or you could have negative thing, which would be punish it when it did bad. So they say their laws are. We are not able to have our laws into the positive era because we're just not at that stage as whole. We're not evolved enough. We may be, you and I, because of the fact that we have this book, we've embraced spirituality, we understand that we can best be served by serving others. We're looking at the message of Jesus and his religion, not the religion about him, called Christianity. So we might be able to exist, and because we already get it. But if you began to do that, there would be so many people that just say, oh, well, this is my license and my liberty to use the other person or to step on the other person for my own personal gain. And that's why we're not ready for libertarianism. Maybe we could have it at some point. But everybody would need to have these, things, or else the people, like I said, okay, look at, do not let evolution proceed. Do not take a backward step. That's presented by Melchizedek. All right, folks, so there's just a quick little video. Like and subscribe. And I'm going to get back to making some videos here for you folks. Had a little bit of break, had a lot of work to do. But, yeah, hopefully we'll get back into it.